After being reborn, the woman's first action was to cancel her husband's household registration, making him a complete non-entity. This was because in her previous life, her husband's twin brother had accidentally drowned. When her husband found out, he couldn't bear to see his pregnant sister-in-law become a widow, so he impersonated his older brother and supported the family. The reason was that the sister-in-law came from the city and was a delicate lady who couldn't handle the village gossip, while the woman herself was a simple country wife who could live on even after losing her husband. At that time, the woman was too grief-stricken to check properly and hastily buried her husband. The day after the funeral, her husband used his brother's name to take over her dowry items and kicked her and her daughter out of the house. To support her daughter, the woman had no choice but to work hard outside. But fate was not on her side. A few years later, a snowstorm hit the area, and the mother and daughter were frozen to death. The woman only learned from the neighbors after her death that the one who had drowned was actually her brother-in-law. At that moment, her husband was with his sister-in-law, and they were having a happy New Year's Eve dinner. Seeing her shameless husband, the woman vowed that if she had another life, she would make him pay. When she opened her eyes again, she found herself back 3 years ago, on the day her brother-in-law drowned. Her husband was already discussing with her parents about impersonating his brother. After hearing their conversation, the woman realized that her parents had known about the deception all along, and only she and her daughter had been kept in the dark. Learning from her past mistakes, the woman immediately went home to check her dowry. In her previous life, her husband had taken her dowry when she was grieving and unconscious. When she woke up, she found her dowry suddenly on her sister-in-law. Fearing discovery, her husband kicked her and her daughter out of the house. Now that she had a second chance, the woman vowed to ruin her husband's reputation. She secretly went to town and sent a rescue telegram to her brother before going to the local police station to cancel her husband's household registration. From this point on, the woman officially became a widow. Since her husband loved pretending to be his brother, she wanted to see how he would explain it when the authorities came knocking. She returned home, but as soon as her husband stepped through the door, he saw his sister-in-law scolding their daughter. Instead of stopping her, he smiled and watched the scene. Seeing the sister-in-law's disdain, the woman quickly thought of a plan. She fell to her knees before her parents, saying that her husband was gone and to ease the family's burden, she would take her daughter back to her parents' house the next day. Upon hearing this, her husband and parents panicked and all tried to stop her from leaving. Her husband looked at her angrily, as if she had done something terrible, because in his mind, even if she died, she still had to work for their family. The sister-in-law thought everyone was reluctant to let her go, so she cried and ran outside. Her husband followed her, clearly worried. Watching the parents pleading with her, the woman laughed inwardly. They weren't reluctant to let her go, they just didn't want her dowry. Although the woman's family wasn't wealthy, she had 3 loving brothers who had given her 3 large boxes of dowry when she married. She had only been married to Lee for 7 years, but half of the dowry had already been stolen. While she was deep in thought, her husband suddenly came back with his sister-in-law. Seeing the sister-in-law smiling, the woman immediately recognized the earrings she was wearing, which were the ones her husband had given her. She demanded the sister-in-law return the earrings, but the sister-in-law claimed they were hers, as they had her name engraved on them. At this point, the woman realized her husband had already been interested in his sister-in-law since they got married. Seeing her husband's guilty expression, the woman felt something was wrong. When she rushed home, she found the dowry in the box had already disappeared. Looking at the